I'm so excited today because we will be delving into Louise's incredible legacy and its connection to the New Thought movement, especially religious science, but as what we are known today as the Centers for Spiritual Living, and all of the New Thought movement, its impact on my life, on your lives. And today I am so excited to have Dr. Patricia Crane and her husband, Rick Nichols, with us today. They will be discussing how they were single handedly involved in creating the Heal Your Life workshops with the very iconic Louise Hay herself. So, welcome, Dr. Patricia and and Rick. Welcome, welcome, welcome to
Well,
the
thank
show.
you. Thank you so much. We're honored to be with you today and share the wisdom of Louise and just our backgrounds with her and how her life and her legacy really can impact so many more people even today, and it's already been millions and millions.
Yes, 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 yes. I'm so excited because I recently just purchased the 40th anniversary gift edition of You Can Heal Your Life. I find that incredible that the book was written in 1984. And I know you have a little surprise for us because you actually have an original copy.
I do. Here is a 1984 copy.
Wow.
And as you can see, it's held together with a rubber band because I've used it so much. But I actually have a copy of every edition that's come out since then. So obviously, I don't need to use this one anymore. But it
Right.
was the 1984 publication and I'm sure I was one of the first people that bought it.
Oh my gosh. I don't think it's really hard to see, but here's the gift edition.
It's beautiful.
It's quite beautiful. The artwork is tremendous.
Hmm.
And I am rereading it. I try to reread it often, at least once a year. But I'd love to begin with how did you encounter Louise or Louise's philosophy? Let's start with how did it all begin?
Okay. Well, I actually found the work, the New Thought work, before I even met Louise or had a book of hers. I probably had the Heal Your Body book, the little one that came out initially with all the
Yes.
symptoms and stuff, etc. But actually, my first mentor in New Thought, Science of Mind, was Reverend Terry Cole Whitaker.
Wow.
And I found her, and she was on TV. And I was already learning about affirmations from other sources, but I had made a decision years before that I would never go to church again because some bad experiences in my youth, which I know a lot of people have. But I
Yes.
found Reverend Terry on TV and I decided that was okay because it wasn't actually church, it was actually TV. But from there, I learned about Louise. And then when her book came out, You Can Heal Your Life, like I said, I was probably one of the first people that bought it. And when I read that one, because I was a voracious reader of all the metaphysical work at that point, the spiritual work, and I thought, this is the best book I've ever read that brings together the mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical. And I was just loving this book and read it, used it. A couple of years later, I was invited to a breakfast meeting where Louise was speaking. And I went to that, and it was before the book was a bestseller. So the group was only about 100 people. After that,
Wow.
she was speaking to thousands, of course, at the I Can Do It. And I went up to her afterwards and said, can I get on your mailing list? There was no email back. Well, there was email, but there wasn't really a big internet presence.
So when you went to this workshop, you were actually there with Louise.
This was actually a talk that she did at a group on a Wednesday morning at 6:30 in the morning. So it wasn't even a workshop.
My
But
goodness.
after talking to her, I got a letter from Hay House saying that she was doing a 1 week intensive. And she had already been doing 2 day workshops at different churches around the country. But she was doing a 1 week intensive. And it was primarily for people with HIV and AIDS, actually.
That's
Because
right.
crisis was going on then. And Louise was so courageous and, really addressing that community and putting forth the spiritual work and the emotional work and the forgiveness work that were so powerful. So I went to
If
that
we could just take a quick
and
moment,
yeah,
I think we're having a little sound issue.
okay,
Um, I just want to make sure that we can hear you clearly.
okay. Well, I also wanted to say
One,
that when I had met Rick, which was a number of years later, but he was immersed in the You Can Heal Your Life book and had even memorized those treatments in the beginning of each chapter. Now, I've never done that, but that's what he had done. So it
that
was kind
is
of, yeah.
that is phenomenal. What I love about what you've said was that her book, You Can Heal Your Life, addressed the mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical
Mhm.
dimensions of consciousness and of our lives. And at the time when you met Louise, was there an obvious connection to the science of mind? Was it something when you went to that talk and you eventually signed up for the workshop? Was there an obvious connection?
I had already been attending the Huntington Beach Church of Religious Science, now Center for Spiritual Living. And of course, that I had was okay going to church at that point. so,
Very
so I
good.
had already started going there with a friend of mine, and that's how I met Reverend Peggy Bassett. And then because I already had Louise's book at that point, but I was excited to find something that was actually teaching what she had in the book.
Wow, that's amazing. So at the time, it was a small group when you did that workshop. There were only a small number of you. I remember the blue book. I
Yes.
had actually, I think at 1920, I was visiting several Unity churches, started out in a small religious science church. There was a lovely minister that came from California, Reverend Gould, and his wife, and they started a small church or community here in Boston, Massachusetts. The center was in existence for about 2 years, and then he passed away. And many people decided to go to a Unity church. And I remember asking someone, well, what's Unity? And they said, well, it's science of mind with a little bit more Jesus. And I said, well, I'm Catholic, so I can deal with a little bit more Jesus. So I ended up at a Unity church, but I remember attending another church, Unity Church, and going into the bookstore because my church was a little bit too small. I went into the bookstore and I found the little blue book. It
Mm-hmm.
was a tiny little blue book with the mental causation or mental causes behind disease, Louise Hay, and the affirmations. I don't know where that book, what I would give to have that book in my hands right now. But I found that book, carried it around, and would just look at the affirmations. I found it so fascinating. I don't think I ever connected it to the book You Can Heal Your Life when I eventually bought it several years later. I knew it was the same person, but I don't think I really connected it. So that is very, very exciting. And how did your trainings begin? And well, how did this? I feel as though it's not a feeling, it's the truth. You and Rick have kept Louise's philosophy alive in a very tangible way by
Mm-hmm.
impacting the life of millions of people because you've trained so many coaches and teachers. It's one thing to read the book, it's another to attend a workshop, to take classes, and to receive coaching from Louise Hay, certified Heal Your Life coach and teacher. So, can you tell me a little bit about that?
Which of course you trained as those last year
Yes,
with us. So,
yes,
yes.
yes, yes.
Well,
Oh,
Much of them now.
there's a group of them now, absolutely.
yay.
Well, when Louise was on the Oprah Winfrey Show a few years after I had started going and studying with her at the intensives, of course, the book was a bestseller overnight, right? And
Right.
she became too busy to do any additional 2-day workshops and asked me and a couple of others who'd worked with her if we'd be happy to do them, which we were. But then people were experiencing that workshop, that 2-day workshop, which you have, and they were so incredibly transformed by those 2 days. They asked if Louise could have a training program. So I called Louise on the phone and I said, Louise, people want a training program. And she thought about it for a nanosecond and said, okay, come down to my house for the weekend and we will put together the curriculum. So she approved it in 1994. In 95, in March, the first one started in San Diego. And
Wow.
so this is the 30th year of the trainings.
Oh my
At the
gosh.
end of that year is when I met my wonderful husband, Rick, and
That would be me.
discovered his immersion in the book. And then after a period of time, he started co-training. So we've been co-training now for many years. And you're right, we have not only trained many hundreds and hundreds of people, but we've authorized 22 people worldwide as additional trainers, especially in other languages.
Ah.
His book has been translated into so many languages. So there have been Heal Your Life workshop leaders and coaches trained in 70 countries now.
Wow.
70.
70 countries.
Yes.
Which countries are your top 5 countries of training and popularity of Louise's worldview?
Well, besides the US and Canada, India.
India is phenomenal. It's huge. They embrace Louise in India like no other country.
That's
They
astonishing.
have a great feeling of reverence for her.
Mm-hmm.
And they willingly and joyfully take the trainings. We have 3 trainers in India, and the 3 are very different in personalities and in background and knowledge. One of them is almost like a Buddhist monk. She's a woman that is just so steady that you would think you were looking at Buddha himself and talking with her. And we have another, it's a husband-wife team. They are business people. They were business trainers before they took our training and became a Heal Your Life trainer in Mumbai, India. And then we have another trainer up in the north of India who is a genuine, she's called, her name is Babu, and they call her Babuji Man, which means that they see her as a true guru in the Indian kind of way. And between the 3 of them, they have done amazing things in India, bringing Louise's work to the Indian people and dedicated all of them to extending her legacy. The people we have around the world are all very different. They all come from different backgrounds, different amounts of time that they've known Louise. Oftentimes their mother told them about a book, whatever. So they come to it in many different ways. Now, the way that I stumbled onto it,
Yes.
that's
Please talk about that.
And that's what happened. I stumbled onto it. Oh, here I am, And I say, my life is just not working the way I'd like it to work. It's just not fun. And I was divorced already twice and had 3 children from those marriages. I was getting along fine. I wasn't ill and I wasn't broke. I wasn't any of the things that you hear about. But I was just plain dissatisfied with life. My thinking was, there's got to be more to it than that.
Yes.
So I told this to a friend of mine, and she says, maybe you should try affirmations. Get your life back in order the way you want it to be. I said, well, what's an affirmation? Oh. And she said, well, here, let me show you something. And so she brought me a flip chart thing, affirmations. You flip through the thing every day. And at the end of it's a year long, the end of a year, and miraculously you're transformed. Okay. And I said, well, I doubt it, but I'll go ahead and play with your cards if you want. The woman that wrote that card deck, said that she was moved to do that by reading a book called The Nature of Personal Reality.
Yes, the Seth books. Weren't these Seth books?
Right.
Yes, I remember that.
And from that, I found out the phrase that carried me into this was the point of power is in the current moment.
Yes, the
Often
point of
attributed
power.
to Louise. But you got to remember, Louise got a collection of lots of different disciplines and things that she pulled together in this magical, almost magical book that she wrote. So I'm looking for, that resonated with me, the point of power. Now, if I can find a point of power, then I will then be powerful,
Yes.
I hadn't a clue of what the present moment might be, though. And no education and stuff at home. So reading through that, and I was reading Nature Personal Reality, and I did some research, and I found out that Louise had also used that phrase. And then that brought me to You Can Heal Your Life. And when I got a hold of that book, I'm educatable, you know. I don't come educated already, but I am teachable. And so I went through the book chapter by chapter.
I love that.
As Patricia just indicated, I am willing to change, or whatever it was. You just said something in there.
Yes.
Anyway, so I go through the book. I memorized all of the affirmations at the beginning of it. I saw them.
How long did it take you? I don't think I asked that in the training. How long did it take you to memorize all the affirmations? And for our viewers who don't know, if you haven't read You Can Heal Your Life, at the end, I think it's at the end of every chapter, there is a beautiful treatment. And for those of us who don't really know what that means, if you're new to New Thought, it's an affirmative prayer. And the old timers who started the movement would say that we would treat for health and treat for prosperity. The same way you would take a medication 3 or 4 times a day. If a doctor gave you a prescription and you take your meds 3 times a day, you would say your treatment several times a day. So at the end of each chapter are beautiful treatments that Louise created, and Rick has went about memorizing every single one. It is astonishing. I have memorized one, and I think it took me over a month to memorize. Deep at the center of my being, there's an infinite well of love. We'll talk about that one. That's a very powerful one. But Rick, continue. How long did it take you to memorize them?
It's different for each one. It's a matter of self-discipline. I would not allow myself to continue to the next chapter until I memorized the treatment, or what I saw as affirmations at the time. And so I would go through it, and I would take walks every day in the morning, go for a walk in the woods, and I'd be reciting that treatment until I could do it without referring to the book. So it was different for each one. To give you a scope of it, took me about 6 months to get through the book entirely. But every exercise in there and everything, because I was determined. Life was getting to be where it was no more interesting to me.
Oh, I have chills.
Day in and day out, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I need to find a way to get interested in life. And so I went through it. And at the end of that 6-month period in studying, I lived the book. I didn't just read the book. I ingested the book, if you will.
You embodied the book.
The entire thing. And then through the process, I fell in love with Louise Hay, and of course, didn't even know her. And of course, there are hundreds of thousands of people around the world that love Louise. She used to say she goes to bed every night with a huge number of people.
To your meditations.
And I said to myself,
That's right.
I said to myself, this is a wonderful woman. One day I hope to meet her. Now, that wasn't an affirmation or even I hope to meet her one day. Well, about roughly a year or so later, I found myself dancing with Louise Hay at a party.
Oh, I don't think I didn't hear this story at the training. So you have to talk about dancing with Louise.
It was a very long dance. I don't think she liked the style. But it was the most amazing, almost a shock to me that I found myself on a dance floor. It was at the grand opening of the Hay House office in Carlsbad. And I had a wonderful time, and then fell even more in love with Louise and her philosophy from then on. And from that on, there are many stories that we have lived over the last many years.
That is so deeply inspiring. By living and embodying, you can heal your life. You were able to bring about manifestation. And this is why, we've been inspired to create this show. It's so important to bring Louise's philosophy back to the New Thought movement because it's so integral. I don't know if many people, after our break, we are coming up to our break soon, we will talk about Louise's background and what led her, what her journey was, and what led her to the writing of You Can Heal Your Life and the healing opportunity that presented herself because many people come across or are guided to this incredible book because they are going through a spiritual challenge. It could be emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual. And so here you were, a walking vibrational match to the consciousness of the book, and you manifested an encounter with Louise. That is phenomenal.
So
I'd like,
Martine, I would like to add one thing
yes.
before going on the break that's very important. And that is when you were asking about the countries, worldwide, certainly England, Great Britain is very important because I was sent there by Hay House to do the 2-day workshop. After again, Louise was, not got so busy she wasn't able to do them. And so I was in England, and it was actually students there that had the idea for the training program.
Oh,
So
wow.
there have been many, many people trained in England. We now have a wonderful trainer for not only England, but also for Ireland. And so I just wanted to bring that up because that actually was from the students in England who took the 2-day that the training idea started.
That's phenomenal. And can we talk a little bit about the trainings? I know that you have an upcoming, we have a few minutes before the break. You have an upcoming training in Florida. Reverend. Dr. Patricia is like my reverend, my therapist, my affirmation expert. She ministers to my heart and my mind. So, Dr. Patricia, please talk about that. Oh, I'd like to mention some people who are on. Barbara Epstein, who is a Science of Mind CSL practitioner in Boston, Massachusetts. I saw one of my Heal Your Life training sisters, Fallon, who's live streaming from San Diego. She says hello. Hi, lovelies. Sending you so much love. Hi, Fallon. Thank you for being here. Hi, Barbara. Thank you for being here. And if anyone has any questions, we will definitely answer, do a little Q&A before it's all said and done. So, Dr. Patricia, please talk about the trainings a little bit and what the offerings are and how you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to be someone who's memorized all the affirmations like Rick to come to the training and to gain this powerful embodiment of her philosophy.
Yeah. Well, we do ask that people who are interested in coming to the training that they already have a good background in Louise's work.
Yes.
For the people who are just finding it, we refer them to the Heal Your Life workshop leaders and coaches. But we want people to have a good grounding in Louise's work before they come, because it is more of an advanced program. So the first one is the workshop leader training. That's what Louise originally, approved. And as time went on, it was clear that people were starting to do individual work and coaching was becoming more prominent. And so the coach training was added in 2008. But for the workshop leader program itself, it's a 7-day program. It actually starts out with the 2-day workshop that Louise created because it is so powerful. And during COVID, we really had to make a decision. Everybody was doing things online, but that 2-day workshop, and Reverend Martine, you know this,
Yes, I
it
do.
is so powerful emotionally that you can't do it online.
Yes.
So we made a decision that we would keep the training, in person, and it involves more on the body-mind connection, prosperity, really deepening your own connection with your spiritual work with meditation, and a 10-week study group that Louise also approved, which she worked with me on to put that together because it was more, she wanted something more than just the 2 day. She wanted, something that people could do week by week as well. So, and afterwards, people are not only certified, but they're also now licensed by Hay House that was approved by Louise. And so that
Dr. Patricia, my apologies. Could you just speak up just a little bit?
oh,
The sound is a little low. I'm so sorry. It might be on our end.
okay.
Thanks, audience. Thank you.
So the 1 week Heal Your Life workshop leader training, again, has been taken by thousands of people and in 70 countries worldwide. We do have 22 trainers, as I mentioned, and besides in the US, Canada, India, and Ireland, and the UK, they are in, if I can remember everybody, is Turkey, Italy. Oh, there's Australia in English as well. And let's see, where else? There's Dutch and what other?
Irish, English.
Yeah. Anyway, there are several others in other countries.
Serbia.
Yeah. Would you
Wow.
believe Serbia? So it's really amazing because Louise's book has been translated into so many languages.
Yes.
And people just started contacting us. So those from other countries, they actually did need to speak English to come to the training with us, but then they also translate the materials and they teach in their own language, which is wonderful.
That's so exciting. I would love for you to talk about how this training can be so pivotal, so important, so enriching for someone who is a science of mind practitioner, a CSL practitioner, of which we have a ton. I mean, for me, it was life changing. I feel as though it has deepened my understanding of the science of mind and the embodiment of the principles. Could you talk a little bit about that? Because I'd like for more practitioners to take this training and just bridge this gap. I just think it's a very tactile, physical experience of the principles of the science of mind. It really helps you to heal emotionally and to uproot those negative patterns and thoughts.
Yeah.
If I may interject a little comment here on
Yes.
that point. You cannot attend even the 2-day workshop and leave that the same person as you were when you began it, if you pay attention.
Exactly.
No matter what your background, if you're rich in spirituality going into it, or if you haven't a clue of what spirituality is going into it, when you finish that 2-day training, you will be enriched in many, many ways.
Yes.
Different person. Completely.
That is right.
It never fails.
It never, ever, ever fails. It's so enriching. So, what would be the benefits to a CSL practitioner who's taking courses at our churches, who feels like, I have enough coursework? What would you say, Dr. Patricia?
Well, I'm very familiar with the practitioner training myself. I didn't take the whole thing, but I did start at the Huntington Beach church that I attended with the foundational ones and considered becoming a practitioner, but life sort of took off in a different direction. But what it does is it gives you really some amazing exercises to take people deeper into the emotional journey. And so I had my own practitioner when I was at the church, and still actually have a practitioner I connect with every once in a while, because I think that is so good for being able to let go and be able to trust. But the exercises in Louise's work take you on a deeper emotional journey to really release more, do a deeper level of forgiveness for sure, and to be able to, as Rick was talking about, and you were embodying the work more fully. And so
Yes.
it really can be a transformational journey. And I can say, before COVID, Rick and I had done a number of workshops at different Unity and Science of Mind churches. And our last one at the Center for Spiritual Living in Capistrano Valley in Southern California, we did a 3-hour workshop in the afternoon. And we had some practitioners and even the minister that said to us afterwards how deep it went for them and how wonderful just the 3 hours, let alone the whole 2-day workshop.
That's wonderful.
It's another piece of healing that, well, they call it the onion. I like to call it the, artichoke.
The artichoke or the onion, the PhD in the self. I think it helps you
You get to the heart.
to elevate. Yes. And for me, I was blessed to be able to do the 2-day workshop and the training in like the best 10 days I've spent in a very, very long time in San Diego. And I feel as though it has enriched my coaching ability as a minister, as a practitioner. I feel as though I can offer clients more. I feel that it's the graduate level of the practitioner training. I kind of see it as like the practitioner training for Centers for Spiritual Living is the undergraduate degree, and the Louise Hay, coach and workshop leader teacher training is the master's degree. I just feel as though it gives you more in your spiritual toolbox to work with. And Louise's philosophy is so well known globally that it's also a really positive branding, I think, of the Centers for Spiritual Living. I think it's notable, it's iconic, it's life-changing, and it's well worth investing in the trainings. So we are going to take a short break, and we will be right back. This is Reverend Martine Bernard, and this is What Would Louise Say on the New Thought Media Network. And
please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
Welcome to the Convention of the Americas 2025, Rising Together. Join us for a truly bilingual retreat experience on the shores of the beautiful Lake Chapala, Mexico. July 22nd through July 26th, 2025, at the Hotel Villa Monte Carlo in Jalisco, Mexico. Featuring Reverend Jeffrey Ryan, Dr. Jose de Lira Sosa, Reverend Dr. Kathy Ann Lewis, Reverend Dr. John Waterhouse, and Reverend Dr. David Bruner. Registration is now open, and payment plans are available. Simply visit www.conventionoftheamericas.com. Come be part of a transformative gathering with powerful presentations, workshops, networking time, and just good old relaxing and connecting. Plus, you can learn more about the science of mind and how to live this powerful philosophy in your life. Transform your life at Convention of the Americas 2025, Rising Together.
What Would Louise Say? Join us every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. Hosted by Reverend Martine Bernard. Explore the wisdom of Louise Hay. Brought to you by New Thought Media Network. Dive into Louise's teachings. Experience healing and empowerment. Reverend Martine shares insights. Connect with a contemporary audience. Unlock your potential. Transform your life with love. Embrace positivity and healing. Join our vibrant community. Ready to join us? Let's spread love and wisdom together. Please like, share, and subscribe. Only on New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
Hello and welcome back. I am Reverend Martine Bernard, and this is What Would Louise Say on the New Thought Media Network. Thank you so much for joining us. I wanted to I was checking the comments. We have folks from Calgary, we have people streaming from all over the country. Thank you for being with us. And Dr. Patricia and Rick, there's a question in the chat. I don't remember who sent it, so thank you, viewer. This is from Marjorie, and she says, during this time on the planet, what are some of the principles? The principles haven't changed, but our understanding of them has been, has evolved. So, what would Louise say about what's happening right now? Because we want to make sure that we are keeping our program relevant, spiritually relevant to what is occurring on the planet. What would you say, Dr. Patricia and Rick?
Well, we, of course, could not say exactly what Louise might say about this. We know Louise very well, and we know that she wouldn't dive into all of the controversy. She wouldn't dive into all the fear. She wouldn't dive into the chaos. But what she would just, in her own most peaceful and calm way, say, just see everything turning out for the highest good. That was one of her favorite sayings. See everything turning out for the highest good. What is happening now is unfolding for my highest good and for the highest good of the country. Would she be upset about it? Not visibly so. She wouldn't, I don't think, go around complaining about it. She would never complain about anything. And she would just do this little Louise smile, and I can't even describe it. But it's a smile that is got a little smirk behind it somehow. And she would, in her most magical voice, just say, everything is turning out for the highest good. And then that's where she would leave it. And she sure wouldn't be watching TV. I can promise you that. And fueling the fear that the TV and the media tries to do. I don't think she even dealt a whole lot. And I'm sure she didn't do much of anything in social media. Hay House did, but Louise in her later years was completely uninterested in all of that.
Wow.
Yeah. I'll add to that because I think we actually have a great example from the way that Louise addressed the AIDS crisis.
Yes, we do.
And there's a beautiful, it's on YouTube. You can search her, the movie that was done about her work at that time. But there's a beautiful section there that says, we're not going to buy into the fear. We're going to focus on emotional and spiritual healing. Now, she obviously took action. So there's a balance there between the science of mind principles and what she taught and the action that we can take if you're guided to take some action. And she certainly did. I mean, she had 8 men in her living room initially at the beginning of the 80s, and it grew to be 800 people every Wednesday night at a big gym in West Hollywood. I was quite privileged when she was traveling one time that she asked me to lead that evening, and that was a great honor for me. But it was a place of healing, emotional healing, spiritual healing. Some people did heal physically, not everyone, but there was a lot that happened. And I think we can look at that as a real example of Louise not only doing the emotional and spiritual work, but she took the action of really loving and approving and welcoming that community. And what happened over time that was so powerful is that mainly gay men, of course, they were bringing not only their partners, they were bringing their nurses, their parents, even their doctors occasionally. So there was a beautiful gathering of people that just embraced the people that were dealing with that crisis. And that's what Louise would do and say, we're not going to buy into the fear. We're going to meditate. We're going to do our spiritual work. And if we're guided, we're going to take some action.
But I just say
yes.
that what I'm teaching you to do here, and I'm doing it, is not necessarily healing you. After somebody said, "Thank you for healing me," Louise, she would say, "No," she would start with and say, "I didn't really know if there was any healing that's been done yet." But she would simply say that I'm showing you how to live a better life while you have life to live.
She's showing you how to live a better life while you have a life to live.
To live.
Mm-hmm.
Hence
Yes.
the book, You Can Heal Your Life. That's where that came from. Because she got a lot of criticism about the work she was doing with the people with AIDS and HIV.
Oh, yes.
And that they don't heal. We know it's a death sentence and so forth. And she will go, "No, what I'm doing is showing you how you can live a happy, successful life while you have a life to live." And that is exactly what she did. She brought families together that were estranged because they didn't like the lifestyle of their children and so forth. And she brought nurses together to understand. And she did it through loving yourself. What we teach is what Louise taught, and that is how to love. Primarily how to love yourself, but on a broader scale, how to simply love. And when you
Yes.
embrace love at that level, then you begin to love the world and all of its disturbances. It's an amazing transformation.
It makes no difference. This is so powerful because this morning, it's not even simply this morning, the last few days I've been struggling. I am of Haitian descent. I know that I'm new to the New Thought Media Network, and I'll tell my story at some point next week. But I was born in Haiti and came here as a little immigrant girl. And so Haiti has been in the news forever. There is lots of political instability, and there is some geopolitics behind that. We don't get into that. But this week, President Trump added Haiti and 12 other countries to a list of a no travel with. So there's a ban. You cannot travel to Haiti, or you should be careful. And you certainly can't travel from Haiti. Um, and the countries on a list, or the countries seen as a terrorist and a danger threat to America. So it's been very interesting. I'm a naturalized citizen. I have a beautiful blue passport. I'm blessed to be a Haitian American, but there's lots of concern regarding travel. And they're saying to even naturalized citizens, don't leave the country. And there is our wonderful SOAR conference, the Science of Mind conference happening in Banff, Canada in August, the beginning of August. I have my ticket bought and I will be going, but I've had a fear about leaving the country and going to Canada. And this morning I said to myself, suddenly I came to myself again and I said, pardon me, I came to myself again and I said, I have to stop catastrophizing, something that Louise would do, and say, stop catastrophizing. And as a practitioner of the science of mind and spirit, begin to affirm my safety, begin to affirm that my travels will be easeful, effortless, and enjoyable, and that I will meet with immigration officers that are loving, kind, professional, and no big deal. I realized that in the last 3 days, I have been allowing myself to just get into this fearful, very, very fearful mentality because of what's happening in the world. And as Dr. Patricia and Rick have shared, Louise would affirm the good, not do a spiritual bypass, but I think it was a guru, I don't know if it's Yogananda, he always says, accept the illusion. You know, if you burn your finger, you burn your finger. But know the truth. Know that the healing principle and power of the infinite is working and that you will easily and effortlessly heal. So we don't not go to the doctor or the emergency room for that boo boo, whether it's mental, physical, emotional, or spiritual. But Louise taught us and reminded us through her philosophy and legacy to remember the truth, the spiritual truth of the circumstances no matter what is happening. No
Mhm.
matter what is happening. Well,
Things
Doctor,
can change a lot between now and then too.
oh yeah, it's a changing. This is a play.
It's the illusion.
So
It's
you
the illusion.
continue knowing your truth, that you are safe and all is well
Mhm.
as you move into it. If things get really dangerous, you can change your mind later. But for now,
Right. For now,
continue with what you know that you need to do, Reverend Martine, because you know what you're here for. You're doing it
precisely.
right now. You're teaching us all wonderful lessons on how to live a better life, even amongst the chaos. So bless you for that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Rick. That's what you and Dr. Patricia have been doing for almost 30 years. And that's what's so powerful. I came to this philosophy, as a young Haitian American girl, thinking that I was a victim because during the AIDS crisis, Haitians were said to be the bringers of AIDS and HIV through some monkey that was in Africa, I guess, that swam across the
Right.
Atlantic and happened to get to Haiti, bite someone, and then that person happened to meet an American. I don't know. But there was some there was some crazy mythology, but it was really easy to feel bad about yourself. But
Yeah.
as the universe would have it, my path crossed with You Could Heal Your Life. I found the book. I then found the Church of Religious Science, as we were known back then, CSL centers, and I attended a service, and my life changed
Mhm.
for the better. It changed for the better. So, Dr. Patricia and Rick, please go ahead, Dr.
And
Patricia.
I just want to add really quickly something that Rick and I have seen over the 30 years of the training. You took the training last year in September. You
Yeah.
had a very powerful group that you were a part of, right?
Yes.
And what we've seen, which actually gives me a lot of hope as well, is that when it first started, the training was a lot of people who were more like groupies around Louise. They were not so sophisticated emotionally and spiritually. And over the years of the training, we have just seen things go more and more deeply and people more spiritually and emotionally ready for the training. So we have really been able to see year by year the growth in consciousness in this world, even though sometimes around, now it doesn't look like it, but we have really experienced it and we've seen it. So
Wow.
we know it's happening as this undercurrent going through everything else, and new thought is a huge part of that.
Yes. So I want everyone to stay encouraged. As Dr. Patricia said, this movement, our movement, the New Thought movement, Louise's world view and philosophy is an undercurrent to everything that's happening. Let's tune into the undercurrent. Dr. Patricia and Rick, when is your training? I know there's an upcoming one. When is the next one?
Well, the upcoming one is in Orlando in about less than a week now. But the next one will be in San Diego, and the dates will be announced for that soon. We don't have them right now, but it'll be in San Diego.
And what will that training consist of?
We're probably going to do the two-part one like you attended. That hasn't been completely decided, but it probably will be the workshop leader and the coach training together or very close together.
Wonderful. And practitioners can attend, lay people, anyone.
Absolutely. But again, we want people now, the practitioners, of course, are familiar with all the principles. But we
Yes.
do ask that people read the book. You Can Heal Your Life.
Read the book.
And we have a few other required readings along with it. But for people in the general community, we do certainly want them to be well versed in the principles and Louise's work.
Yes, definitely.
That means
And so this is very exciting. I have probably not mentioned to Dr. Patricia and Rick that they will be on possibly every 6 weeks, every 8 weeks, and we're going to do a current events. How do we deal with what's happening? We'll have special questions that the audience can ask regarding any topic. Nothing is off limit because it's so important that we make our principles applicable to everyday life.
Yes.
This is practical metaphysics. Back in the day, it was called practical Christianity from the Unity movement, but Ernest Holmes called it practical spirituality. These principles, these metaphysical principles, can be applied to everyday life. And as Louise taught us and embodied, you can heal your life. So, my beloveds, thank you for joining us today. This is Reverend Martine Bernard. Thank you, Dr. Patricia. Thank you, Rick, for joining us. This is What Would Louise Do on the New Thought Media Network. Thank you for being with us, and see you next week with What Would Louise Do? New Thought Media Network. Blessings and much love. And remember, you can heal your life. Bye-bye.